Hello everybody, it's November the 14th of 2022 and today we'll be talking about this book a little bit. I'm actually going to keep it pretty brief because I've been doing super long videos and I did notice my battery is very low anyway. Not that that has an effect. I plan to kind of remain in a, what do you call it, maintain brevity during this because like I said, but here, I'll show you. This is focused on this book. With all these DK books, they're all amazing. So, like, if you want mine, how I feel about this book, any book that is like big ideas simply explained by DK, they're fucking great. Like, look at all this. You could I love just reading all these little, what do you call them, infographics? Or like, I guess, yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I mean, it's more like a phrase graphic. I don't know how you'd say it. Aphorism graphic. But I always like those, and I actually especially love the design of this astronomy book. It just looks really beautiful. Oh, it's got the yellow on the kind of the dark blue background. But then I'll just show off some of like the graphics inside and how it's structured. Every DK book, Doris Kinderling, Big Ideas book, is like this. And if you just like this kind of design, which I love it on the side, they tell you, like, they'll have an idea over here, and then they'll talk about other related ideas, come before and after in chronology of that. And so, let's skip a little bit further in, and then they have cool little graphics like this. I just love this stuff, so, like I said, I don't have a lot to say on that, because I've just read another, I could binge these, and then I wouldn't always have stuff to say about this, but it's just so awesome just to read through and just see all these cool graphics, and just I love the way it provides information. And yeah. Oh, and look, this is where I'm at now. Of course, I haven't finished the book yet, but check it out. I recently got this cool new bookmark. Oh yeah, isn't that cool? I love it, Greg, and it's got like flying little fucking birds and wheatgrass or whatever. So that's where I am. Oh yeah, talking about this thing. It's super Jupiter. It's like 13 times of Jupiter. So that's where I'm almost near the end. Oh, here's one thing that I kind of find annoying. It's not a bad thing for this book. I like to go cover to cover. Where is it? They have a directory, and then it's like this ugly. I mean, like I said, not really. It's cool they include this, but by this point in the book, it just kind of I start to skim through because it's just these little profiles on various people. Some that were mentioned and some that didn't get mentioned, and they have, of course, a glossary. And yeah, I just love the design of this book. But I've talked about two of these already, so I don't think I'm going to go into too much length on this. But if someone who looked up this book, I like how this is just like right in the middle of my head while I speak. Not distracting at all. I'll skip it over. Alright, anyway. But if you're someone who just like Googled to try to find information on this book specifically, I totally recommend getting it. They're just awesome. Anytime you see DK, it's great. If you want to learn specifically about astronomy, it's been great so far. I've learned a lot. Actually, it made me realize I knew more about astronomy than I thought I did. But I always felt like it was one of the weaker subjects I knew less about than other things. But like cool little effects, I learned that quasar, because I always confuse quasar and pulsar. So pulsar they both were discovered in the 60s. One I think was like 63, the other 67. I wrote it down in my notes, but I didn't bring my notes out this time for this book report. Greg Huffman's book report, not Dratsab book report. Or Greg Dratsab Huffman. But yeah. I didn't bring my notes out for this one, but a pulsar is like a neutron star, I believe, that is just spinning. Every so often the light hits the Earth, goes boop, boop, or like sends a light signal, so they catch on to that. But quasar, it's, what do you call it? I always confuse, not acronym, or how do you say, like initialization? In other words, it stands for, now I'm going to fuck it up, quasi-stellar radio signal. Is that a radio source? And so I thought that was really interesting. And I don't think I'll confuse it now because I'll just know it's a radio source. It's like, I think it's supposed to look like a galaxy, but it's just made up of radio. Now I'm wondering exactly what that constitutes, but I'll have to look it up again. But yeah, it's a quasi-stellar, stellar meaning star, and radio source. Quasi means it's seemingly that. So it looks, oh yeah, a quasi-stellar, that's because it looks like a star. It's quasi-stellar. It looks like a star. That's what it is. It looks like a star, but it's actually a radio source. Yeah, that's interesting. One thing I found interesting in this book, I'm not going to pull up the page. I didn't write down the page where it is. They talk about Edwin Hubble, and it was something I never heard about him before, and they kind of shit on his calculations of things. Like, this book almost, like, it's not very critical of a lot of the people in it, but for Edwin Hubble, man, they said he was kind of like a hypocrite. Like, there's this cool guy's name, I like his name, Vesto Slifer, and he did some kind of star chart, I guess. I forgot what is it, redshifted planets or redshifted galaxies, and so apparently Hubble would take the Vesto Slifer's information and use it for his material, but then if somebody encroached on his material and did what he did to him, he'd be pissed about it, and they call him out for that. And they also said a lot of his measurements weren't accurate. So it's kind of interesting just how this book calls out Edwin Hubble. I don't know to what degree that's accurate, but I've just never seen, they don't do that for anybody else as far as I remember, so it's interesting to notice. I was thinking the other day about, I donate plasma sometimes, and this guy was talking about, it's glad you have astronomy book, not like some, astronomy, because actual science, astronomy. Like, it's, demonstrating, like, chemistry and alchemy, But I was thinking about that, most people these days would probably rather read an astrology book. I think the interesting thing about astrology, no, I don't find astrology interesting, really. It's like a waste of time, and I don't even get that. But it almost goes against the Copernican principle, the whole point of that we're not, humankind isn't anything special to be, or like our environment, whatever. But I know I didn't word that right, but yeah, Copernican principle, whatever. But now I'm trying to think alright, but anyway, with astrology, it almost says the stars were forged, or just the stars exist almost to forge our destiny, which is the exact opposite, and I guess that appeals to people's ego to a certain degree. I do think people offload their ego. That's somewhat, I don't want to get into this here because it's not really related, but I was thinking about the other day about how people's egos, it's like, unless you have a strong, like, if you're confident in your narcissism, you won't be like that. But I think people that are egotistical or what do you say, like a sense of narcissism, but they project it, they use something else to do it, whether it's astrology or tarot or like God. They'll be like, oh, it's not me, it's just this is what God wants, so they just offload their narcissism onto another object or another subject and it's really them, but that way they don't have to feel narcissistic about all their narcissistic shit. If you see that, like, a lot of narcissists, like, is the inversion of the quote kind of and the Brothers Karamazov, their character says, if God did not exist, all things would be, all things not permissible, or all things would be allowed. Yeah, I can't remember the exact quote. But it's the exact opposite, is once you allow, religion, or basically if you allow religion to have a God figure, you can excuse anything, anything you say. So I think that is a problem of, it's not, with atheism, you have to fear the consequences of what happens, what will society think of your actions. But if you think God's on your side, Gott mit uns, as the Nazis would have on there. Was it their boot? What the fuck they have? It was Gott mit uns. I remember Christopher Hitchens talked about it. It was on, I can't remember if it was a lapel or something on them. No, I can't remember. Yeah, Gott mit uns. But if you think God is on your side, then you can, if you can just take all your thoughts, and I have personal experience with this, you can just, project it onto that God figure and then excuse everything you do. And if you're atheist, humanist, or whatever, you can't do that. But anyway, that was kind of, I don't mind straying a little bit from the topic at hand, but it just made me think of it with, astrology. It seems like the thing with astrology almost was like the new religion, whereas this is the new, keep that maybe in check with astronomy to a certain degree. The new age, if we can't have organized religion, we'll replace it. Probably not as damaging, but still just as problematic in a certain sense. I shouldn't say that, because if I say problematic, it's basically the same thing. But there is an issue with it, that where you're letting bullshit in, and it's not logical. I guess everybody's got to believe in at least one dumb concept, as they say, but why choose God or why believe in God and ruin a good choice, right? Why waste my choice with God? Anyway, I'm going to keep going off tangent. Like I said, I want to keep this kind of brief, not to complain about astrology, but I do think that is the new thing that is coming in. Somebody's got to fill the void of the old religion with some new nonsense, and that's one of the big things that gets through in today's culture. Anyway, peace out. Hope you enjoyed Greg Huffman's book report. My one viewer, Nate, out there. So, or if later on people stumble on these old videos and eventually catch on, or at least a dozen people watch them later. All right, bye. Oof.